You probably don't know very much about me, so I'll tell you a little bit more about me. How I got involved in the whole persons with disability thing is, it actually started when I was a kid. My mom, excuse me, volunteered in an autistic school, and she would often bring her work home. I think you know what I mean by that. I'm one of 5 kids, right? And our house was constantly filled. She also fostered children. So our house was full of kids, some with autism, and we had to learn how to deal at a very young age with autistic kids, from mild to quite severe versions. Um, when I came to Trinidad, I'm an English Trini, by the way, so I've been here since 2003. Um, I kind of got into society here and the culture and so on, and then in 2012, I met this young lady, excuse me, who has severe cerebral palsy. Her name is Shamla Miraj. Anybody know Shamla? If you ever meet her, you will find this little fiery character who is one of the best advocates for persons with disability that I have met in the world. She is a tiny little kid. She sits in an electric wheelchair. The only arm that works is she has a left arm that works. She can't control her legs or her left arm. You don't ever sit on her left-hand side because her arm will come out and whack you at some random point. And she goes, "I didn't mean to do that." And I say, "I know you didn't." Her brain works at 100%. She struggled her way through to get into Barrackpore School because they didn't want to let her in because she was in a wheelchair. But her and her dad, they fought it. They built ramps around the school so she could get into school. She eventually went on to UWE. UWE did not know how to deal with somebody with her level of disability. And so she actually convinced, she wanted to do agriculture and agri-development. She convinced them to move classes to the ground floor because there was no elevator in that part of the school. So she's a powerful character. She's now done a master's degree and she's starting on her PhD. And I met her in 2012, and she's going to be on stage at the TED, doing a TED talk next year. And she's been to Paris. She's already spoken at the United Nations Kids Youth thing in Paris. So she's a great advocate. She got me hooked, okay, because I have no history of disability in my family. I'm very fortunate. All my brothers and sisters are okay, and I have 3 kids, 34, 30, and 18. They have grandkids, and we're all great, thank you very much. So we consider ourselves fortunate, but I am an advocate, and I've been around CODO since 2011, and I'm a supporter. Also, one of my best friends is a triple amputee. You may have heard of him. His name is Rajesh Durbal. I brought him here in 2012, and we did a thing called the No Excuses Tour around Trinidad. I took him to Princess Elizabeth School. We worked with CODO. We worked with schools and disability organizations, and he's now a regular visitor. He was born with no bones in his lower legs and a real messed up right arm. His left arm is perfect. And he suffered for many, many years. He had to have both his legs amputated and most of his right arm amputated. He suffered for a number of years, been bullied at school, been taken, really, really badly dealt with, and he got to the stage of trying to kill himself. And he was smoking and drinking, this is as a 20-something-year-old. And in 2009, he did a big turnaround. He realized he was killing himself, either literally or virtually, through his habit. And he made a change, and he became an athlete. He started off by modifying his legs into something that he could run in, and he entered a 5K race. This is in Orlando. And he was but last. As he says, I was last. He said, they were tidying up the finishing line when I came across the line. And one of my legs, he said, was really rough. It was starting to fall apart because he wasn't used to that. So he decided he was going to take that to the next level. The next year, a year later, he did the Kona Ironman World Championships. Anybody know what an Ironman race is? Kelvin will do because he's a cyclist, right? It is a 2.4-mile open water swim. You cannot use prosthetics. He swam 2.4 miles in open water with stumps and a single arm. And he was in the top half out of the water. Then ride 112 miles in Kona, which is a very hot Hawaiian island. And then you run 26.2 miles. He completed that in 14 hours. He set a world record for an amputee in his first race. He's done it several times since. And he motivated me. I'm an Ironman, by the way. I did my own man, as Jackie said. He motivated me because I thought, damn, if he can do it, anybody can do it. So he comes, visits regularly now, and he does motivational stuff. He travels. He's a great friend of Princess Elizabeth School. A lot of the kids down there look forward to his visits. And the funny thing about kids, when they see Rajesh, they don't mind going up and poking his legs, you know, because he has carbon fiber legs, and kind of moving his shorts so they can have a good look to find out what's going on there. So I've been motivated into this position. My day job is I'm a leadership coach. I do team building, personal coaching, leadership development. I'm a best-selling Amazon author, international best-selling author, predominantly on motivational and physical wellness and fitness. I have a couple of records. Myself and some friends ran 24 consecutive laps around the savannah in 10 hours, 46 minutes. We've run 100 miles across the south of Trinidad. So I'm an advocate of physical fitness and wellness. And if you think this is my fuel supply, you see that? That's my fuel supply, right? Okay, so that's a little bit about me. So I'm here to guide you through until around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Then Stephen is going to take over. We're going to have a look at a video and have a little facilitation around the video. So as I said, the first thing I want us to talk about is how do I influence people from my personal point of view? Because advocacy, as I said, is about getting people to do stuff that they may not want to do. So the first subject, and there's going to be lots of discussion around your tables. The first subject is a thing called personal leadership. Anybody want to have a guess at what personal leadership is about? What do you think personal leadership is? Right, it's being able to motivate yourself. What are you motivating yourself towards as a great personal leader? Your goals. So great personal leaders have a real, very focused view of what they want to achieve, and then they go about methodically going after it. That is really what personal leadership is about. It's what do I want to achieve, and then they go about it and action it. They take action. And by that nature, that causes other people to gravitate towards them. Can you see why? People who say they're going to do something and they go out and do it, generally are kind of people go, wow, how did you do that? How can I help you? Or how can you influence other people to do the same? So great personal leaders have a clear view of the future, and then they go out and execute against it. And they know exactly what makes them tick. They have a deep understanding of themselves and are able to influence others, okay? So the first exercise is going to be, I would like you, and this is a table conversation, so huddle around your table, so three tables, 3 conversations. I want you to think about this. What are the attributes of great personal leaders? People who first have a clear view of what they want to do and why they want to do it, and secondly, they are able to influence other people. Now, you might think of great leaders and think, what is it about them that enabled them to? Names might flash to mind. So Richard Branson, right, might flash to mind. I'm just giving you examples. Nelson Mandela might come into your mind. People who are great personal leaders, but also able to influence others. Okay, what are the attributes of those people? What do they do? What's their attitude like? All okay with that? So let me give you a few minutes to have a conversation on the table, and then we'll see what we can do to fill this page up with the attributes of great personal leaders. Okay? So I'll give you a few minutes to have a chat. Okay? So let me start with Peggy. Peggy, give us one from your list. You have to shout out.
Okay, so our group has chosen resilience.
Resilience. Describe, why is resilience needed? What does it mean? What does resilience mean? Peggy, shout out.
For us?
Yes.
It means to be able to bounce back, to stand against the naysayers.
Right.
Right?
It is that bounce back factor, isn't it? So you hit an obstacle, what do you do when you hit an obstacle? You learn from it and you figure a way around it, over it, or through it. And great leaders are extremely resilient. Okay, cool. Mary? Something from your table.
They're focused.
They're focused. They have clear focus. What is their focus on?
They set goals.
Right.
And they are focused on it despite failures, despite negativity that may come around it. They are able to keep focus and then achieve their goal.
Okay. So their focus, I'm going to write up here, their focus is on their goal. And one thing I've learned, and that's why I pulled that a little bit further up, is great leaders have absolutely crystal clear goals. And guess what? They write them down. And I'll come back to the significance of that. They're not just fluffy things in their head. They are crystal clear goals and they write them down. And that gives them a piece of focus, doesn't it? The focus is my goals. That's all I'm focused on. And when I find something that gets in the way of me and my goals, it's the bounce back factor, it's the resilience. Okay, good. Team? Kelvin?
Self-confidence.
Self-confidence. There's several pieces in here. Self-confidence. I'm going to put self-confidence. I'm also going to put self-belief. Because one leads to another, doesn't it? Those two are linked. You okay with those two being linked? It's that unerring, I can do this stuff, isn't it? Not that, oh, I don't know about that. You know, the self-doubt that creeps in sometimes when you set yourself a goal and you go, can I really do that? And we'll look at how we deal with that, because this is something that needs constant work, isn't it? There is no such person who gets a tick. Self-belief, 100%, that's gassed up tank for life. It doesn't work like that, because you meet people who niggle away at your self-belief, don't you? Really? You want to do that? You sure about that? And you're like, oh, hang on a minute, am I doing the right thing? So we'll look at self-confidence and belief, how we do that. Peggy, back to you. Microphone. Our audio guy is going to be running around and going to be fit as heck after this. Another one from your list. Another one from the list, Peggy.
Charismatic.
Charisma. What does, anybody can answer this, but Peggy, if you've got an idea, what does charisma mean? What does it look like? Oh, look, that's, the mic's been passed. That's it. Okay, Casey, what does it look like?
To me, it's about being able to motivate others by the way that you think you speak, so you could probably have an influence over others.
Yes. It's difficult to describe as charisma, isn't it? Whenever I ask somebody, I get a completely different description. It's kind of that je ne sais quoi. I don't know what it is, but I meet that person and there's a buzz, isn't there? There's a little energy around them.
Yeah.
And I'm always trying to figure it out, because I think if I could bottle it and sell it, I would make a ton of money. Here's a charisma pill. Take that and people will do whatever the hell you want them to, right? There are some things you can do to build your charisma, and we'll talk a little bit about that. It's about how you present yourself, how you look, how you stand, the pauses that you allow. See what you're all doing? Like, what's he going to say next? Okay. So it's a lot about the way you present yourself and the way you present. Okay, so charisma, I'm good with that. Okay? Round to Mary. Something else on your list, Mary?
Humility. We had humility.
Oh, yes.
We felt that the person should be able to connect with various strata throughout society. If you really want to influence, you need to be able to influence everybody,
yes,
despite whatever the difference.
Yeah, it's about connecting, isn't it? You can't connect with people if you are arrogant. Okay? I'm not going to get into politics, but you cannot connect with people if you are arrogant. You can be supremely self-confident and still humble. And if you look at great leaders who, from a position of no authority other than moral authority, have influenced, they have a level of humility which is outstanding. I mean, you think about Mahatma Gandhi, okay? There's probably one of the most humble people you could ever imagine, and yet he caused the English to leave India, right? Great news, that, okay? So it's kind of like, and even, you know, Nelson Mandela, supremely confident, and yet with a level of humility. And that happens for the great business leaders as well. So humility, good. Kelvin.
Perseverance.
Perseverance. This is connected to resilience. It's that dogged determination, okay, to go on and on and on and on and on. All right, cool. There's a few more things, there's a few gaps up here, so I'm going to give it a little bit of time to close the gaps, and I'll ask some more loaded questions. Okay, Peggy? Anything else on your list?
Yes, passion.
Passion, thank you, that's one of them. Ka-ching! They have a passion. And their passion is for their cause, isn't it? And I heard some discussions here at this table. They are passionate about their cause. You will not, I challenge this, you can put me down if you wish. I would challenge anybody to fight for a cause that they weren't passionate about. And you will not succeed. You will not succeed, will you? If you're not passionate about your cause, don't bother, go find something else. So they have a passion for what they do. Good, okay, so pass the mic. Mary, what do you think?
We spoke about having a positive outlook.
Absolutely. Positive mental attitude. Little coupled with self-belief, but the world, they see opportunities everywhere. Opportunities are everywhere to be seen, okay? So if there's, well, let me give you an example. I'm a great follower of successful businesses, and I figure out what it is the business does that causes them to be successful, particularly in hard times. And more often than not, it's the attitude of the CEO. And I'll give an example. You've heard of Walmart. Walmart was started by a guy called Sam Walton. Sam Walton was 44, and he had $5,000 US. That's how he started Walmart. And his attitude, to a large extent, was what caused the success of Walmart. And fortunately, that has followed in his footsteps, you know, since his death 10, 11 years ago. I was watching an interview with Sam Walton on CBS, and this was in the 90s. There was a recession in the 90s in the US, and it affected the rest of the world. It wasn't as big as 2008, but it was pretty serious. And the interviewer said to Sam, said, "Mr. Walton, what are your thoughts on the current recession?" And as he always did, Sam Walton went quiet for a moment. And he said, "You know something? I've had a think about it, and we've decided not to participate." You get it? I've thought about it, and we've decided we're not going to participate. Isn't that an amazing attitude? We're not participating in the recession. Walmart was the only blue chip stock to grow through that recession. That doesn't mean they didn't do anything. They changed products, they upgraded stores, they downgraded product pricing and whatever, but they grew through a recession, predominantly because of Sam Walton's attitude. We decided not to participate. That sticks in my head. When somebody says, "Oh, there is a recession in Trinidad, you don't want to be doing this," oh, we're not participating. We're not participating. Good. All right. Good.
We have here excellent communicator.
They're great at communicating. More of that later this morning, because I'm going to take you through a process to understand your communication strengths and perhaps look at some areas to develop in terms of being a positive communicator. Okay? They're good in all aspects of communication. They're great talkers. They're also empathetic listeners. So if you take those two things, they talk and persuade, but they listen with empathy. Okay? They listen with empathy. They build an understanding. Okay? Good. Where are we up to? Back to Peggy. There's a couple missing. We're getting close, but there's a couple missing. Hi. That's okay. Could you join this table over here, please? Love the hair. That's spectacular. Peggy, anything left on your list?
Yes. Tamika is saying open to learn, but she also said ignore the naysayers.
And
Right.
that is something that a great leader does.
Right, who do they hang out with? Who do great positive people hang out with? Other positive people, supporters.
I have a question.
Sure.
No, I was thinking that a great leader should be honest, but then Hitler was a great leader too. So,
This is why you have to be very careful about how you cherry pick these. Yeah, Hitler was a great leader was the comment here. So somewhere up here has to be integrity or values. So I'm going to put the word values. And what was the first point that you made was around? I'm going to put a positive spin on that, and they say they build positive relationships. We look at how we build our attitude. One of them is to hang out with positive people rather than the naysayers. Right, is there anything left? I've got one that I want on there so much. Anything left? Anything on any of your lists? Thank you! Good old Kelvin, the man got it. Yeah, there you go, Kelvin, well done. It was teamwork. Vision. They have a crystal clear picture of the future, which condenses into specific goals, which turns into plans against which we action. So that was the spin I was looking for, okay? That was the spin I was looking for. I'm going to ask you one more loaded question. Where does their motivation come from? Self-motivated, thank you. They don't wait to be told what to do. They wake up in the morning and they go do the stuff that needs to be done because they want to do it. They are self-motivated. All right, good. Have we all got that stuff down? I'm going to do one thing for you, and I'm going to say some of the stuff on there is kind of compulsory for great leaders, great personal leaders and people leaders, and some of it is optional. Okay, because you can't necessarily be good at all 20 of those things. What do you think are the compulsory things on that list to be a great leader? Right, this piece, and I'm going to go all the way down to here. Clear vision, goals, plans and action. Consistently, every single leader, I don't care whether they're business leaders or community leaders, they do this stuff really, really well. Something else on the list. That kind of comes from this piece. What are compulsory things? Passion. Don't work on anything that you don't really care about or love. Okay, figure out what your passions are and then focus on those, the causes that you feel so strongly about. I'm going to couple this one, self-belief, and I'm going to couple it with positive mental attitude. Because those two things are linked, and I'll explain how they're linked. Anything else? It's kind of cool, but not on the compulsory list. Values. Kind of useful, but not on the compulsory list. There's a couple more, one more for particular. Where does their motivation come from? They are all self-motivated. They're driven in the direction of their goals. That motivation is internal. They don't need to be pushed and shoved. They actually are driven, self-driven. Okay, the others are great, by the way, but when I look at leaders, I interview leaders, I read books, I see those consistently coming out. Okay, so what I would like you to do, we're going to take a break in about 15-20 minutes, okay? But I'd like you to take a couple of minutes and look at this list and come up with things and go, you know something? I need to work on that. What are the 2 or 3 things on here that you believe personally you need to do a better job of or build? Don't worry about how to do it right now. Just think about what are the 2 or 3 things on here that you say, you know, I really need to develop or build on that. And make a couple of notes. You see that okay down there? Everybody written that down? Unless you have a crystal clear vision for the future, this is an area, this is always the start point, right? So what other areas have we written down? Self-belief. Anybody written positive attitude or self-belief? Right, we'll do a little piece on that. I always describe self-belief and attitude, positive attitude. It's not something you have one dose of and it lasts a lifetime. It's a bit like bathing, particularly in the tropics, right? One shower does not last a lifetime, does it? You need 2 or 3 a day, particularly in the tropics. It's the same with building a positive attitude and building your self-belief. You have to do it daily, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. All right, cool. We're good with that? Before we have the break, let's have a little bit of a look at this whole thing around self-belief and positive attitude. And I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to start off with an equation. Anybody like maths? No? You like this little piece of maths, okay? I'll explain why. Write this down. R equals G minus SD squared. This is in my next book, which comes out in 4 weeks, by the way, which will be an Amazon #1 bestseller. It's called Live Life Now. It's $9.99 US, and it'll be on Amazon in 4 weeks. And this is one of the lessons in it around self-belief. Anybody know what this might mean? This math equation might mean, what each letter might mean? No. What do you think G stands for? Goals, thank you. Results, thank you. Yes. Self-doubt. Results equals goals minus self-doubt squared. Squared. What that says is a little bit of self-doubt is going to seriously affect your achievement of your goals. Okay, a little bit of self-doubt. So if I eradicate self-doubt, I'm going to achieve all of my goals. Yeah, you good with that? And that's a fact. Okay, it's not a theory, it's a fact. Remove self-doubt and you will achieve your goals. So let's look at some pragmatic things to do to build this self-belief and focus on a positive attitude. I'm just going to write down, I'm a pragmatist. I believe there are specific things that you can do that will affect that. Okay, anybody want to have a guess at something you can do to build a positive attitude? What do you think? That's not pragmatic enough. It's too fluffy. Peggy said introspection. And it's a bit fluffy. It's kind of like, I'm going to introspect. Not sure what that means, right? Give me something that I can do to build my attitude. A mantra. There we go. I call them affirmations. Affirmations. Affirmation is positive self-talk. Affirmations are 3 things, and they're all P's. They're powerful, they're positive, and they are present tense. Okay? I'm talking about things to be true today that aren't, but I want them to become true in the future. I'll give you an example. I told you I wanted to be a triathlete, and I am now a triathlete, okay? 6 and a bit years ago, I couldn't swim. And I had to get to the stage where I could do 2.4-mile open water swim. So I had a big problem. I didn't like my face underwater. If a little bit of water got up my nose, I panicked. Like if I was in a 6-foot swimming pool, I would die, right? Because I'm 6 foot tall. Okay, so my feet would barely touch the bottom. So I had to learn to swim. After quite a few tries which failed, I thought, Nigel, you have to take your own medicine. What do? You talk to yourself. So I developed an affirmation when I couldn't swim. My affirmation was, and still is, I am a swimming monster. Get it? I am a swimming monster. Powerful, present tense, positive. Okay? So I would get into, they wouldn't let us in the pool. You know Marlin's pool? This 50-meter long, 6-foot deep death trench. That was how I used to see it. There's a kids' pool. They would not let us in the big pool because we would die. So I would be in the kids' pool, kneeling, breathing out on the surface, blowing bubbles through my nose under the water. Okay, getting used to this whole thing. And every now and then I'd panic. I'd come up. This is kneeling in the kids' pool. And I would go, I'm a swimming monster. Nigel, I'm a swimming monster. I'm a swimming monster. Obviously, people around the side are laughing and laughing and laughing. Okay, eventually they let us in the big pool. And none of us died. I was with a bunch of friends. None of us died. It was really good. We actually eventually swam the 50 meters. But I would go 3 or 4 strokes. I would grab hold of the rope. And I'd be going, I'm a swimming monster. I'm a swimming monster. Okay. And everybody's standing around, what the heck is that guy on, right? But of course, today I say it more calmly because it's true. I am a swimming monster. I swim around Gasperie. Right? You know that island? Yeah, I swam around there. That's a tough swim. I'm a swimming monster. Affirmations are incredibly powerful. Talk to yourself. What else can you do? Pragmatic thing you can do. Who do you hang around with? Hang out with positive people. The fastest way to get self-doubt is to hang around with the wrong people, like you mentioned, the naysayers. Starting a business in this recession, you've got to be crazy. You've got a perfectly good job. Why would you do that? All of a sudden, your business idea is like, wow, really? Should I do that? Okay? So hang around with positive people. I would actually say, get a piece of paper. Put a plus sign on one side and a negative sign on the other. And write down their names. Right? Write down their names. You know their names, don't you? The ones that go, oh, you don't want to be doing that. It's raining outside, I wouldn't do that. And they're all, you want to start your own school? You really want to do this? What, you're crazy? Write their names down. Write down the names of the people who go, wow, that's cool, what a great idea. How can I join in? And then take a red marker with your list and put a big cross through this side here. Okay, somebody once said to me, what happens if I go home to them? And I ain't going to answer that, right? I'm not going to answer that. What happens if your negative piece of your life is somebody at home? Okay, I'm not going to answer that, but hang out with positive people. It's a massive positive boost. What else do you think you could do? What? Right. It's a little bit of affirmations, but in terms, it's kind of the environment stuff. If you dress good and confident, it will increase your confidence, won't it? If you appear differently, you look differently. That's really what you're getting at, isn't it? In terms of, look good, feel good, okay? Builds your confidence. I had a guy, when I used to have to work for a living, can you believe that? I was in IT business, and I was in sales for a while, and this guy said to me, Nigel, you work from home sometimes? I'm like, yes. How do you feel when you make a phone call to a customer from home? I said, well, I feel okay. I said, how do you dress? I said, what do you mean, how do I dress? I'm at home. I got a pair of old skanky shorts on and a t-shirt. How are your customers at the other end of the phone line dressed? Well, in a business suit or whatever. So how do you think you feel when you're making that phone call? And I thought, that's a good point. So next time I was working at home and making a few phone calls, I put my suit on. I put my business suit on, and I sat at my desk upright, and I made some calls, and I felt better. I felt more confident because I was dressed the equivalent of the people I was talking to, and that affected the way you spoke. So look at your environment. What else do you think we can do? Thank you. You're going to hear this exercise. Exercise. Anybody in here work out? Good, right. Let me tell you something. People who exercise regularly are happier and more positive than people who don't. Fact. That's not Nigel speaking. That is fact. People who exercise regularly are happier and more positive than people who don't. And there is a reason for that. One, well, there's several. One is we feel better about ourselves. The second is, well, let me ask you a question. Would anybody like free drugs that make you happy and they're legal? Free drugs that make you happy and they're legal. Everybody wants that stuff, don't they? They're in your body. They're called endorphins. And they are released when you exercise vigorously and you get happier. Okay? There's a thing called runner's high. And I've had runner's high many times. When you're running and you're very intense, you get actually to the stage where you're almost floating above the road. And that's when the endorphins are flooding your system. You're smiling. You might have done 40 miles or something, but you're smiling and happy. And the pain goes away. People who exercise have a more positive attitude and are happier than people who don't. Anything else, do you think? Right. This thing is about personal responsibility. I own it. It's my goals, my objectives. The result is mine. I own it. It's personal responsibility. When you blame other people, what do you think happens? You know, the people is like, oh, well, you know, the business didn't work because somebody let me down. Or, you know, I couldn't go exercising because something happened. It's always blaming somebody else, okay? People who take personal responsibility achieve greater results and have a more positive attitude and a higher level of self-belief. That's a fact, another fact, okay? So accept what is yours. I always describe to people who complain. I can't stand people who complain, by the way. I divorced divorced with a little d, myself from people who complain, okay? And the reason I do it is because it tires me out. It saps my energy when I hear somebody complaining. And so I have a three-choice rule. And I'll share that with you just before we have a break. If you are unhappy with any situation in your life, you have three choices. Choice number one, learn to live with it. Okay? Choice two, work to positively change it. Guess what choice three is? Leave. Choice three is leave. There is no fourth choice to whine and moan and complain and grumble about it, because that sucks your energy and it particularly sucks the energy of people around you. So if you've got anything you're not happy about, learn to live with it, work to positively change it, or go somewhere else. That's about your job, your relationship, the country you live in, any situation you're in you're not happy, learn to live with it, work to positively change it, or go somewhere else. Okay? Good. So this is around personal responsibility. There is one other thing on this list, which is to learn. Constantly be learning. Sorry. Yeah. When you've got your goals, take action. But always be learning. You know, don't just wait to go back to school to study. Always be learning. Okay? Every day. Spend 30 minutes every day. Go on the internet and learn something about your chosen subject. Okay? Every single day of your life, be learning something new. And it builds your confidence and your positive attitude. Okay? Right. I would like you to take a couple of things from here and add them to your when I leave here action list. When I leave here, I'm going to go and do a bit more exercise. Okay? When I leave here, I'm going to write some affirmations. Okay? When I leave here, I'm going to write down a list of those people who drag me down every time I make some comment. When I leave here, I'm going to take personal responsibility for my future. When I leave here, I'm going to spend 30 minutes researching something every single day of my life. Okay? You know, if you spend an hour a day learning something, in 3 years you'll be one of the world's greatest experts in it. That's true. For 1 hour every day, you focus on one subject. In 3 years, that's 1,000 hours, more than 1,000 hours, you will be one of the world's leading experts on that subject. Okay? You aware of that? It's true, it's true. Okay? Simple math. Okay, we're going to take a short break. Okay? Well, let's just recap. So we've just been through some areas to build your personal leadership skills, okay? And you've got your action plans to take away. So just remember, to be able to influence others, you really need to top up those personal leadership skills to the highest possible level, okay? Which is around always be learning, be confident, look at how you present yourself, have a clear vision, and communicate the vision to people as part of your communication with them. And with the video we're going to look at immediately after lunch will help you figure out the power of sharing. Not sharing your goals, but sharing your beliefs and your vision. Okay? That is a massive influencer in terms of how you influence people. Okay? So we talked about personal leadership. The next two subjects we're going to do between now and lunchtime at 12:30 is around motivation. Understanding motivation. So you probably want to get a brand new page in your notebook. This deserves a new page. Deserves a new page. Motivation. Start off with, somebody help me understand, what does the word motivation mean? What is motivation? Shout out. It's a reason I do something. That's an almost perfect version of what I think motivation is. It's a reason. I'm going to break this down. Motivation, right? Motivation. Motive is a reason, or a purpose, or indeed a goal. Yeah? A motive is a reason, or a purpose, or a goal. And the Asian piece, if I stick a C in there, it becomes action. Okay? So motivation is a reason to act, a reason to do something. So there's the simplest definition of motivation you'll probably ever hear. It's a reason to take action. That's what motivation is. And I am motivated when I am doing something in the direction of one of my goals or to fulfill my purpose. Real simple definition of motivation. So now what I'd like you to do is, on your page, write a 1 with a couple of spaces underneath it, a 2, and a 3. So your page looks a little bit like that. And I'm going to go through the 3 different ways in which we cause action to happen. How we motivate, okay? Can you think of something that, let's say we want to motivate somebody. Can you think of a way in which we would get somebody to do something? How would we do it? Incentives, thank you. We have motivation number 2, which is called incentive motivation. What is incentive motivation about? What am I doing? I am giving something in return for something being done that I want them to do. Okay? So it is about reward. Could be dollars. It could be recognition. Okay? Is it an internal or an external motivator? It's external, isn't it? It's external because I am applying it to a person. The harder you work, the more I will pay you. The more stuff you sell, the more I will pay you. Okay? So I'm offering something to somebody in return for something from them. It's incentive motivation, but it is based on, it's external. I am applying it to somebody. Is it predominantly a positive or negative motivator? It's mostly positive, isn't it? Is it always positive? No, I got some very definite no's. Give me a circumstance where it might not be positive. So I'm saying, if you work this weekend, I'll pay you overtime. Why would that not be positive? Because I might want my weekend for something else. I have to want what they're offering enough for me to give up what they're asking for. Okay, so I've got family coming round for a lime and I haven't seen them for ages, or I get overtime for working a Saturday. If I'm wanting to get my car repaired, I might decide to do the overtime and work the Saturday. If I haven't seen my family for a while, I might say, no, thank you. I've got a family. So it's external. It is positive, but not always. So be careful of this. It's not always positive. What is the opposite of incentive motivation? You have to shout up. Discipline. Disincentive. It's a disincentive, but what am I saying to somebody? What words would I use? Okay. If you don't, then. Fear. It's about a threat, right? And ultimately, punishment. You heard it before? If then, if then. It's always if then, or something like that. If you don't, then. Mostly positive or negative? It's negative. And in fact, I argue, it's always negative. Always negative. So why do we do it? To make somebody do something, but it's always negative. Why on earth would I negatively motivate somebody? Why do I do it? Pardon?
It's focusing on something and result of getting something done.
But I'm threatening them to do it.
Right. But your motivation is getting it done, not how it's done.
Indeed, but it's still negative. Why do we do it? We haven't answered the question yet. If it's working, it does work sometimes, right? But is it an internal or an external motivator? External. It is an external motivator. And by the way, how long does it last? If I'm constantly threatening somebody, how long does it last? It's short term. It is temporary. It's a temporary motivator, and it's negative. Why on earth do we do it? I can tell you why in a minute, but I'm going to keep asking the question. How many of your parents got kids? How many of you were once kids? All of us, right? What did we get from our parents, and what do we do as parents? If then. If then is fear-based parenting. If you don't do your homework then. Anybody use that? Okay. If you don't tidy your room then. Anybody done that? We threaten our kids, the very people that are most important to us in our lives, we threaten them. And by the way, I have my hand up. Because my eldest two, 34 and 30, I threatened her. My 18-year-old, I've never threatened her in my life. And that's not because she's a goody two-shoes. She's as rough, very independent and whatever, but I never threatened her once because I learned something. I learned it's negative, it has a negative effect. It reduces self-esteem, it devalues the individual. Constantly threatening your kids is having a direct negative effect on them. How many of you now feel guilty? Good, and so you should. And so you should. We do it, by the way, because it's what was done to us. Our parents were like, if you don't tidy your room, then. If you don't get higher grades at school, then. And so when we become parents, we go, I know how to do this stuff. If then, if then, if then, if then. So we actually became the threatening parents that was imposed upon us. So, wouldn't it be nice to at least turn every one of these into one of these? And I'm going to teach you how. This is one of the most powerful lessons that you will learn about motivation. And by the way, you can use it with everybody. This, okay, it's external, it's temporary, but at least it's positive. There's 3 words I can use to move one of these to one of these. Would you like to know what they are? I would like to hear yes, Nigel, if you would like to hear what they are. Thank you. As soon as ... So I'll give you a threat and you turn it into a positive incentive. If you don't tidy your room, you can't watch TV. As soon as your room's tidy, you can watch TV. But I want to watch it as soon as your room's tidy, you can watch TV. As soon as you've finished your homework, you get today's Wi-Fi password. By the way, that works great with teenagers. As soon as you've finished your homework, I'll give you today's Wi-Fi. But I need to send a message to so-and-so. As soon as you've done your homework, I'll give you the day's Wi-Fi password. You okay with that? So here's another symbolic crossing out. Don't ever threaten anybody. At work, at home, kids, family, friends, whatever. Use as soon as, at least to turn one of these into one of these. Okay? That's one of the most powerful. It even comes back at you. So my daughter here, Vivian, she's 18. She's a super A student. Really, really cool. I called her the other day, said, "Hey V, you want to go and catch a movie?" And she said, "Daddy, as soon as I finish my project, I'll give you a call and we'll go watch a movie." Straight back at you. Straight back at you. As soon as I finish my project, we'll go watch a movie, okay? So you can pay this forward to your kids, and it's never too late to teach people this process. So we've got 2 external temporary motivators. What do you think motivator 3 is? If they're external and temporary, what might this one be? Internal, long-term is self-motivation. It's also known as attitude motivation. That's item 3. What is true, so by the way, it's also internal and permanent. What has to be true for somebody to be self-motivated? What do they have to have a clear view of? They have to know their goals. They have to know what they want. They have to know what they need. And they have to be making progress towards them. When somebody has a clear view of their goals, they know what they want, what they need, and they're moving in the direction of them, they are self-motivated. Okay? Self-motivation is long-term, and it is the intrinsic internal motivator. Okay? So if you want to persuade somebody of something, so back into the advocacy rule, if you want to persuade somebody of something, what do you need to understand about the person you are trying to persuade? What works for them? What are they looking for? What goals do they have? How is working on the stuff I want them to do going to positively affect the things that they want? Okay, that's the question they have to ask. And let me tell you, if I have a room with 10 people, how many different motivators do you think I'm going to have? 10. I'm going to have 10 different motivators. 10 different reasons that people will want to do what I want them to do. So I have to know them, okay? And I'll give you an example. I'm going to use a couple of names from a previous government, but I'm not political. I'm neutral, okay? Because I consider myself, even after 14 years, to be a guest. And I'm not going to give you opinions on my politics. But when I brought Rajesh Dorbal over here in 2012, there were a number of people at a governmental level who wanted to meet him. But they wanted to meet him for different reasons. Okay? We had to figure out how to get time with those individuals. And which were the individuals. So one of them was Minister of Social Development and... Yeah, Glenn... Right. Glenn was one. Anil Roberts was the other. And the Prime Minister was the other. And again, I'm not judging anything, but those three people, we wanted them to meet Rajesh for different reasons. Glenn wanted to meet with him because he's a bit of an athlete, if you don't know. He's a runner. And he wanted to meet a runner. And he also wanted to get some kudos for his department. Anil wanted to meet him because he's very competitive. And he wanted to swim against Rajesh to see if he could beat him. Because you know Anil is a swimming instructor. Okay? The third person was the Prime Minister. Okay? She wanted to meet him. Why do you think she wanted to meet him? Shout, go on. You're amongst friends. Nothing's coming out of this room, right? Actually, it's a little bit like that. She wanted people to see empathy, that I understand, but also she wanted a headline in the newspapers. And she got headline in the newspapers. The front page of the Express the next day had a picture of Kamla shaking hands with Rajesh Durbal, okay, in her office, and I was there. I knew exactly why she wanted free publicity, PR, and that is not a judgment, it's an observation. It's an observation, okay? So understanding this means your ability to influence people or meet people or have conversations with people will help you get that access time that you need, okay? All right, cool. So we understand the basics of motivation. Let's just take that one level further and figure out what are all of the things, the motivators. What are all of the things that motivate people? Okay, we're going to have a little exercise, so you're going to work on your tables to figure out what are all the things that motivate people, all of the different things. And by the way, I'll give you one just to get you started. Money. So that's off the table. That is off the table. I want you to have conversation on your tables, all take notes. What are the things that motivate people that are non-financial? Non-financial motivators. And I want you to come up with, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 or 40 of those things, all right? So start the conversation. All the things that motivate people that are not money. Think about yourselves. Think about maybe who you work for, if you work. Think about the things that motivate people, okay? All right, so start the conversation, then we'll do what we normally do, and we'll come up and see if we can fill this page. So what I want is I'm going to ask for one from your list, so pick a motivator from your list. Again, we'll go around the table until we've filled up this page. So let's hear from, and if you haven't made your own notes, I would suggest you make your own notes when you see the stuff that's up here. So Kelvin. Oh, new spokesperson. Yes, okay, Michelle.
Fame.
Fame. A motivator is fame. Fame, okay? Being famous. Recognition I'll also take. Somebody said recognition. Recognition, and I'm going to add to that, being appreciated. So from fame, we've got a little spiral there of things that are similar. Okay.
Helping others.
Helping others. I'm going to summarize that with giving.
Mm-hmm. Competition.
Sorry?
Competition.
Okay, just one. I'm going to add it for you, though, just in... Competition. What is it about competition that motivates us? I want to win. The demand to win, okay? The need to win. Okay, cool. So, Peggy, you still spokesperson over here? What do you think?
Disappointment.
Disappointment?
Yeah.
That motivates us.
Yeah, some people.
The fear of failure.
Yeah, failure.
I'm going to put in there FOF. Fear of failure. Sometimes we are motivated because we don't want to fail. Okay, cool. Right, Kelvin. Oh, sorry, Michelle.
Family or child. So,
Right.
The benefits to your family or loved ones.
Right. Something that benefits our family or the people around us. So for family, you also include friends or whatever. So we are motivated by providing something for our family. Okay, cool. Where you go? Anything else on the list?
Just thinking of, well, we didn't write it down, but when you think about family or a motivator, or a motivator would be really to protect others, or danger, or that sort of thing.
Right.
To be a motivator to.
So coming off this is protection. So we're getting broader in terms of what are we doing for friends and family or whatever. And in terms of giving, we're giving protection, providing for them. You know, the food on the table, the security. You know the Maslow stuff? Anybody familiar with Maslow? I'll just flip on to this quickly. Make sure I get enough slots in here. Anybody want to fill in the slot starting at the bottom? Physical, which is shelter, protection, whatever. Next up, security. This is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of need. Next. Social. This is having a family and friends. Next up, status. Next up, self-fulfillment, self-actualization. Okay. Generally, as we get older, as it were, or these needs become fulfilled, we move up a level. Okay, but it's all a little bit more mushy than that because they're intertwined, and you can actually head down as well. Go through a particularly hard time in life, you know, whatever, you can head back down. But generally, that's Maslow's theory. There is actually an extra level that we've figured out recently underneath all of this, which is far more fundamental. Anybody know what it is?
what are the top two?
Self-fulfillment, self-actualization. This is a giving back thing, you know, do a lot of the stuff that we're doing here, right? Status has been promoted, being seen as the next level. Social is good family, friends. Security is protection. And physical is food, water, and so on. This more fundamental level is something that everybody craves for. I'll write it for you. It's Wi-Fi. Okay? It's a much more fundamental human need. You know, people walking in here this morning going like this, where is it, you know? So the most fundamental need these days is Wi-Fi. And then I'll have a lunch after that. Good. Okay. So where do we get up to? So we were into yes, this whole thing about
Curiosity and anger.
sorry?
Curiosity.
Curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
It is a motivator, that kind of research person, the person who wants to know stuff. Okay, good. Where are we up to? Anything else, Michelle?
Working towards a cause or belief.
Right, you're moving in the direction of your cause. And very specifically, it's like we talked about motivation is motive. It's a reason to do something, and the action. So it's motion, making progress is motivational, yeah. Anything else? Anything left on your list? Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions, loaded questions, there's a couple which I really want to see up there. How do you feel if you're talking and nobody's listening? How do you feel? You're unhappy, aren't you? And that's because nobody is understanding us. Okay? Understanding, or being understood, we need to be understood. It motivates us to have somebody listen to us, and listen to us with empathy, to understand us. Would you, and this is a little bit of an odd question because it's not always true for everybody, would you rather work alone or as part of a team? It depends. That's why it's a bit of an odd question. It depends on what?
I guess it depends on what you're working on.
It does.
Right. So in the case of, let's say, from a designing standpoint, I am mapping a project, right? I would prefer to sit and draft my floor plans on my own.
Yep.
But if, in terms of executing it now, I would need to have a team for us
Yes.
to work to get that project totally executed.
Right.
Right? So it more or less depends. And I guess in our case, the initial phase of it, as being an advocate, pen to paper, you are putting your
Yep.
your thoughts on paper. So that would be you working alone.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of executing it now, I would need a team because I
Yes.
have to share this with other people. I have to get other people on board
Yes.
and actually bring what they were doing, working singly, and to, for us to pluralize it and work
Yeah.
together to get it done. So it strongly depends on
That's it. And there's two
nature of
aspects
it.
of that, of working in a team. One is the kind of multiplication factor. I need more heads working on it, both from an effort point of view, but also a creativity point of view. I don't know. Does anybody here know everything? Or it's just me then? So we don't, nobody knows everything. So there's a reason to work together, which is to a large extent what we're doing today and tomorrow is working together. Common goal or objective, right, is a team thing, but also humans have a fundamental need to have a sense of belonging. Did you know that? So actually, a sense of belonging is a fundamental human need. And there are three things on here that are fundamental: sense of belonging, being appreciated, and being understood. And the psychologists say those three things, all 7 billion people on this planet need those three things: to be appreciated, to be understood, and have a sense of belonging. And if you take any one of these three things away, then you are psychologically impacting that individual. Huh? Grab the mic a minute, Anne.
I think for this group, with all of us being, most of us here being parents, I think belonging is so fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
I know the thing that drives me the most crazy and upsets me the most and motivates me the most is when my son is excluded from things. Right?
Yes.
He is not able to belong.
It is. And it's interesting, I go back and talk about my friend and actually my hero, Shamla Mirage. When I first met her, I asked her loads of questions. I said, so, what's life like and how did you get here and stuff like that? And I said to her, what pisses you off most? And guess what she said? So she's in a wheelchair. What do you think pisses off somebody in a wheelchair more than anything else? Nope, not accessibility. Nope. Being condescended to. Being talked about when she's right there. Not included in the conversation. And because she's a small person in a wheelchair and people are standing, she frickin' drives her nuts. She will shout at people, I'm here! Look down! I've seen her do that. Look down, ask me. They will ask her mom, okay, who's more often than not there, or a brother, but she gets really angry about that. So when I'm with Shamla, I crouch down and we chat like this. So I'm down at her level, or if I sit in a chair, so it's kind of like we're then communicating. Think about that when you're dealing with people people with disabilities who are wheelchaired, is get to their level and talk to them. That's the thing that pisses them off most. It's because they're not included, they're excluded.
With children generally,
Yeah.
always say when you need to communicate, you need to
Move to their level. Move to their level. All right, great. We've got the biggest group of motivators there, okay? And the fundamentals are appreciated, belonging, and a sense of understanding. Now remember, if I'm trying to persuade somebody of something, they have one or two or three of those as their primary motivators. What do I need to figure out? which they are. How do I find out what motivates somebody? Okay, I'll tell you one thing, do not do this. Do not say, hey, what motivates you? Because you'll get one of two reactions. One is you'll get the eyes in the headlight. It's a trick or something like that. Or, believe it or not, they will lie to you. They will tell you what they think you want to hear, as opposed to the truth. The fact is, they probably don't know. And you can't give them a list and say, hey, circle the top 3. What you do know is been appreciated, a sense of belonging and understanding are 3 of them. But what you need to figure out is what are the rest. So with Glenn, competition. Glenn and Anil, competition. Okay? With Kamla, what was hers? Fame. Right? And actually with Glenn and with Anil, they were slightly different. Glenn wanted to run with Rajesh to see what it's like, to experience running with somebody with blades. Anil wanted to beat him. Okay? Beat this big shot swimmer. So there's some examples, all right? So when you're going to meet with somebody or you're discussing things with something, you have to have a conversation to find out what this is. If you don't really know them, it means having a conversation. So tell me a bit about yourself is always a good starter. Because when you say, tell me a bit about yourself, you start to hear things, the most important things. So whenever I meet somebody for the first time, I will say, tell me a bit about yourself. And the first words that they utter are the things that are most important to them. And I do this even in a business environment. Tell me a bit about yourself. Well, I'm married, I've got 2 kids and whatever. What's the most important thing to that person? Family. Tell me a bit about yourself. Well, I've been here for 14 years. I started as a junior clerk, but I'm actually now very senior in accounts. What's the most important person to that career progression and position? So tell me a bit about yourself is a great way to start a conversation with somebody. If you want to persuade them of something and you start telling them what you want to persuade them about, you will fail if you haven't had that first conversation. It doesn't matter how important they are, where they are, tell me a bit about yourself is a great way to start a conversation. As they start talking, you learn. And then you learn things that to your advantage to enable you to persuade them. Is that okay? Yes, Mary.
I was wondering if, looking at the list of motivators, if the 3 that you circled tend to underlie most of the others. Because even for persons who tend to say that they like helping persons, if at the core maybe that desire for appreciation.
Yeah, it could be. Why do they want to help people? They want to help people because it gives them a sense of belonging, because they belong to a community. Or is it because they feel appreciated, that somebody says thank you and so on. Or maybe the person they're helping is a good understander, a good listener. So these do underline most of these things here, but some of them are just straight bang in your face. It's like people just want to win. Their need for appreciation is quite small. Okay. So we okay on motivation? So the key goal is when you get to meet somebody or you want to influence somebody, then you find out what makes them tick. Then you're not going to find out by asking them the question, what motivates you? You're going to find out by getting to know them. And tell me is a great way to start a conversation. Tell me a bit about yourself. Before we talk about what I'm here to talk about, tell me a bit about yourself. Why is that important to you? What are you looking for? So all nice big open questions. Yes, Peggy.
When you can identify with people, that also helps to motivate them to do certain things, because they know that you have an idea of what they are going through.
Yes.
So it helps them to, because they know that you can see from their eyes, from their perspective.
Yeah, building the empathetic position is really critical, building that empathetic position. Okay, right, last thing we're going to do before lunchtime is we're going to look at communication, how we communicate. We'll do part of it before lunch, then we'll have lunch, and then we'll finish off doing that, and then we'll look at the the belief video, okay? And then I'll be handing over mid-afternoon over to Stephen. So, I have a questionnaire for you to do. Watch me. There are 10 questions or statements. So read the statement, and then the 4 choices, or in some cases 2 choices, underneath. When you have picked the choice that feels most comfortable for you, so the first question says, when presenting, I'm most comfortable when I can, and then there are 4 choices: relate with an audience, get involved with them, share accurate, detailed information with them, or direct or control them. One of those will seem to be most comfortable. When you pick the one that you are most comfortable with, go across to the right-hand side and fill the circle in on the same line. So you'll see circles on each line. Don't worry about the columns that they're in. Just fill it, make a mark in the circle to show that's your choice. Okay? Guidance: don't put what you think is the right answer. Don't put what you think you would like to be. Be very honest with yourself and put, yeah, this is me. This is my comfort place. For questions 5 and 7, there are only 2 choices. Either you're reserved about expressing your opinion, or you express your opinion readily. Whichever one it is, go across to the right-hand side and you'll see 2 circles on the same line. Mark both circles. And the same for question 7. Either your language is informal or it's formal. Fill in both circles that are on the same line. Okay? It should only take you 2 or 3 minutes to do that exercise. Okay? If it takes you longer, then you're perhaps over-analysing it. Okay? So complete all 10 questions and I'll give you further guidance on what to do with that. So get a new page in your notebook, and I want you to draw a big quadrant on it like that. So fill the page with the quadrant. And then I want you to put a small square, big enough to write a number in the middle of each quadrant. So your page will look something like that. So what I'm going to take you through is a communication style exercise. This is based on a guy's theory from 400 BC, a gentleman by the name of Hippocrates. Hippocrates was a psychologist and a doctor, but you didn't get certificates in those days. He was the first person of note to recognize the fact that there were different personality styles. And he basically analyzed and came up with the 4 different personality styles. Since then, more research has been done. Carl Jung, the German psychiatrist, psychologist in the 1920s, did more study. And basically, they surmised Hippocrates was right. Generally, there are 4 different types of personalities. And we all tend to have one primary style and 1 or more secondary styles. And I'm going to help you figure out what those are. I'm going to start by describing the styles which sit inside these quadrants. But first, I'm going to tell you what's on the axis. So you're pretty much going to copy what I write down on here. On the top axis, we have open. A person who is open will readily share facts and stuff about them, feelings. They will tell you whatever you want to know. They will share. And I'm giving you quite a extreme language version, but you understand that not everybody will be completely like that, but I'm giving you the extremes. So there are people who are open. On the other axis, there are people who are reserved. The reserved person is the person who will tend to keep themselves to themselves. They will not be easy to get to know. And you may have figured you've known them for quite a while, but you actually don't know very much about them. Or you know a few facts about them, but not how they feel about anything. So that's reserved. Over here, we have the word direct. You ask them their opinion, and they will give it to you whether you like it or not. They don't much care. They will be blunt, in some cases brutally blunt, about what they think. Okay? And again, I'm using extreme language to describe the extremes. And then over here, we simply have indirect. It's difficult to find out what they think. You have to ask more and more questions to get an opinion. They're very likely to answer a question with a question. You know, what do you think we should do about this? Well, I don't mind. What do you think? Where do you want to eat out tonight, darling? I don't mind. You decide. Okay? They're indirect because either they don't want to upset you or they don't have enough information. They want more facts. So let's look at the 4 styles now. Someone who is open, very easy to get to know, facts and feelings, and has an opinion on everything. This style is known as expressive. An expressive person is noisy, talkative, outgoing. What do you think their favorite subject is? Themselves. They talk incessantly about themselves because they are their very own favorite subject. They have opinions on everything and they will share everything about themselves. That is the expressive. They think in pictures and images and they talk in colourful, informal language. Okay? The expressive. This style, open, readily shares stuff about themselves, but indirect, don't give opinions because they don't want to upset people. Style is known as amiable. Amiable. These are the friendly ones. Great team players, great listeners. The most empathetic listeners are amiable. Okay? They're great listeners. They're very people-sensitive, very people-oriented. They don't like confrontation, though, so they will often keep quiet if they think their opinion might have a negative effect on somebody. Okay? Indirect and reserved. Keep their opinions to themselves, keep themselves to themselves. This style is known as analytical. Analytical. Analytical, as the word describes, these are the deep thinkers. Logical, rational thought process, thinking facts and figures and decimal places and dotted I's and crossed T's. They can procrastinate because they are collectors of information. They're great researchers, they're great preparers of data, but they're not great decision makers because they will procrastinate sometimes. And the last style, reserved, keep themselves, and direct. These can be brutal. These folks can be brutal. They are known as drivers. These are the let's get it done rather than talk about it. Okay, action orientated, not easy to get to know because they're just focused on getting results, okay, and doing stuff, okay. Least people sensitive, by the way. Most people sensitive. Noisy and emotional. Quiet and rational. So diagonals are opposites. So you see where we're going with this, right? In terms of who are we to start off with. Do you want to know who you are now? Take your 4 numbers. Write the first number in this box. That's your first number. The second number is your amiable score. The third number is your analytical score. And the 4th number is your driver score. You okay with that? So, the first number is expressive, second number amiable, third number is analytical, 4th number is driver. Sorry? Analytical is your third number. Now, it is actually possible to have 3, 3, 3, 3. Does anybody have that? Okay, probably about 1 in 40 people have 3, 3, 3, 3. I call them chameleons. You know what a chameleon does? It blends into whatever circumstance it is in. So a chameleon can actually be any one of those 4 styles and moves from one to the other, depending on the situation. So, let me just get some feedback. Who has their highest score as expressive? Okay, just stand up a moment, expressives. So wow. Okay, so we got some expressive people. So these are expressive. They like to talk. Everybody look at them. They like to talk, and their favorite subject is themselves, okay? And we have already seen some of that. We have already seen some of that. So you may now sit down. Oh, by the way, we'll look at some other things. Clothes often give expressives away. Don't they, Michelle? So the way people dress as a matter of choice, expressives are more likely to wear bright colours. Okay, more likely to wear bright colours. Who has their highest score is amiable? Okay, stand up, yeah. Okay, so these are our friendly, team-orientated, they need a hug type amiable people, all right? Dislike confrontation. All are desperately wanting to sit down immediately because they don't like to be the centre of attention. Whereas the expressive's like, yeah, I'm expressive. Yay me. So the amiables, okay. Analytical people. Highest score in the analytical side, Adana, is analytical. Where? Analytical and expressive. Okay, this is our first schizophrenic in the audience here. Mary is a schizophrenic. I say that jokingly because these are opposites. These are opposites. It's actually a great strength, Mary, to be expressive and analytical because it means you can be outgoing and ta-da and sell persuasively, but also you can sell using facts and figures. You can persuade using facts and figures. All right, cool. So drivers, highest score in the driver box. You have a tie between what? Analytical and driver. Okay, so we have a driver, an analytical driver, but what are they, fours? Mm-hmm. You have a tie? Right. It's interesting, driver's secondary style tends to be analytical. Analytical secondary style tends to be driver. Expressive secondary style, if we have one at all, tends to be amiable, and vice versa. And I say tends to be. Because these are emotional styles, these are rational logical styles, okay? So if you have a driver score, your secondary is likely to be analytical and so on. But the unusual ones are the diagonal opposites, and it is a great strength because it means you can flip from emotional persuasion into rational logical persuasion without thinking about it too much. Okay, so these are the four styles. What do you think we do with that information? There's two things to come out of this, and that's why we're going to have another little look at it after lunch. One is, you now know what your strengths are, okay, in terms of your communication style. But also, you may want to adapt, because if you're working with people of a different style, you have to adapt to suit their style. You okay with that? Let's imagine this. I want to persuade an expressive person. What do I need to do? Number one is it's emotional. Number two, what do they like to do? Talk. So what do I do with an expressive? Ask questions and listen. Do not talk at them, because they will be pissed off with you. It's like, stop talking, it's my turn. All an expressive is thinking when you're talking at them is, shut up, it's my turn to talk. And by the way, I haven't heard anything you said. Because they're too busy thinking about what they're going to say next. Isn't that true, expressives? They're too busy thinking. So you can't persuade an expressive by talking at them. You will just upset them. Ask them questions. Make them look good as a result of working with you. They're the fame and fortune ones, right? So if you can make them look good, hey, if you partner with us on this, this is going to get massive press publicity. They're going to be going, really? How good am I going to look? Oh boy, you're going to look amazing. It will be incredible on your whatever. That's what will get an expressive wound up, is make them look good. Listen to them and get them fame and fortune. Okay? I want to improve or build a relationship with an amiable person. What do I do? What do they like? They're the relationship people. They want to talk about family and stuff before we have any conversation about anything else. Ask them about their family. Build a relationship with them. Talk to them about your family, your friends. They want to build relationships. They will only work with people who build relationships with them. You go in and say, hey, look, what's really important to us as far as this project is concerned is this, 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 and this. They go, whoa, you haven't asked me about my son yet. He's just gone through school and graduated. As soon as they won't say that, but that's what they're thinking. Amiables want to build a relationship. So build a relationship with an amiable, and you will be able to work with them. They're it's very tough for them to say no, because they're agreeable people. These, by the way, if you build a relationship, are the easiest people to persuade. They're the easiest people to persuade. You okay with that? I want to get a good relationship with somebody who is analytical. What do? I go in prepared with facts and figures and flipping decimal points and whatever, because that's how they make decisions. I persuade these people with rational, logical facts. 2.6% or 3% of this is going to improve the blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And they hear, wow, that's cool. Because they're rational, logical. Don't try to build a relationship with them because they're not interested. That doesn't mean they don't have relationships. It just means that they just want to get the stuff done in a rational, logical fashion. These are the quietest people that you'll meet. How do I build a relationship with a driver? What do I need to know about a driver first and foremost? What results they want to achieve. What they want to achieve. When I find out what they want to achieve, what do? I action plan and show them how working with me can help them achieve the things that they want to achieve. There will be short meetings. During the meeting, they will be doing this. Okay? Because they just want to get on and do it. What you're doing, having a conversation with them, is wasting their time. So what they want to hear about is, hey, I've got this great idea. You want to achieve these goals by the end of your period as a minister? Yes, I can help you do that. Now you have my attention. Tell me specifically what is going to happen in order for us to do that. And they will hug you up, and then you get the heck out of their room and go and work on it. That's how they make decisions and how they take action. Be action orientated. All good with that? So, the last piece we do before lunch is this. I walk into a room and I want to figure out who are each one of these styles. It's a meeting that's been set up. It's with some possible sponsors. I don't have time to get to know them particularly well, but I want to try and figure out who is which, because this is going to determine how I communicate with them. How would I spot the expressive in a room? They could be the most colourful. If they have a choice of clothes, they will probably be the most colourful. Not always, but probably. What will they be doing? Talking. They will be talking and other people will be listening or whatever. Okay, so look for the colourful, talkative ones, okay? How do I spot the amiables in a room? They are listening to the expressives. The expressives going, ja, 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 and the amiables going, wow, blah, 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 right? They're listening to the expressives. How do I spot the analytical people in the room? What are they doing? They're quiet, their head is probably down, and they're probably making notes. They're not antisocial, they're the least social. They will only be social with people who they choose to be social with. They will generally not be social centers in a room or whatever, so they'll probably be heads down, writing stuff down, and so on, okay? How do I spot the drivers in a room? What are the drivers doing? What's the behavior of a driver? They want to get stuff done. They will be looking at their watch. They will be tapping a pencil on the desk. If there is a choice of where to sit in a boardroom, they will choose the head of the table. They will go to the top of the table, and they will probably sit like this. See, this is driver, I'm in control body language. They'll be sitting like this, checking the watch, wondering when the hell this meeting's going to get started, and how quickly they can get out to do stuff. Okay? And just again, in terms of clothes, usually the brightest colours, usually comfortable clothing, usually cheap clothing, and usually sharp. This is where the pinstripes and the Oxford brogues and the cufflinks and stuff sits in here, okay? For ladies, it's going to be smart suits and stuff like that. So you can do it from a clothing point of view as well. But that is not always the case, particularly if it's work and a business suit is the required dress for men, then you won't be able to tell from clothes. If it's a casual environment, you're more likely to be able to tell.
What did you say to look for amiable? From the amiable people?
Clothing?
No, what would they be doing?
Listening to the expressives. They'll be listening to these folks because they're both emotional. These are emotional talkers and these are emotional listeners. So there's a good level of... Oh, by the way, this is good for relationship stuff too. Emotional talkers, emotional listeners, both emotional. Rational results getters, rational providers of information to get results, another good relationship. Okay? Be careful of diagonals. If you're an analytical and you're married to an expressive, it can be rough. Okay, if you're a driver and you're married to an amiable, most people sensitive, least people sensitive. Okay, that doesn't mean people can't adapt, but that's the challenging one.
They grouped this all together according to our personalities, and then they gave us a write-up of a car accident, and we had to describe the car accident, and it was hilarious.
Yes.
Because the analytical people, it was all about the angle of the cars and where the cars all were, and the expressive and amiable people were all about how many people were hurt in the accident, what happened. It was really funny.
Yeah, I do whole days and sometimes 2-day sessions on this with people because there's a ton more behind it. But you will find lots of, I'm going to do a little extra on it after lunch, but there is a lot of internet resources based on this. If you want to read up more and so on, you'll see things like disc analysis, which is similar. Obviously, none of them are as good as my interpretation. But this is in my first book, by the way. So it's like, so they're all based on the similar, Myers-Briggs is based on the similar principles and so on, but this is the simple way to think about it. I even looked at cars. What's the ideal car for an expressive? This is the reason that Porsche and Ferrari and so on are in business, and red BMWs and so on. The louder, the noisier. Ideal car for a person of amiable? Multi-person seater. These are the 7-seaters so they can carry their friends around, the MPVs, right? Ideal car for the analytical? Used Corollas. Because they're cheap, low gas mileage, high gas mileage, low depreciation. It's true. I've done a car park walk before, and I got an 80% hit just looking at the cars. This is like a black Mercedes-Benz or a Lexus or a Prado. It's kind of like I've arrived type car. Look at my big posh car. The last piece on this, which I promised to talk to you a little bit about, the next kind of level. So what we have at the moment here is communication styles. So expressive, just remind me because it's after lunch. Expressive, what do they do? Okay, what's their favourite subject? Amiables? Friendly. Kelvin just told me he's selling his 7-seater. He's serious as well. He is currently selling his 7-seater. Friendly, warm, relationship-based, analytical, factual, deep thinkers, drivers, action, results, no talk, just do it my way or the highway. All right, good. Now, what I want you to do on your quadrants is this. On the axis, I want you to draw a box on the axis itself, like this. Okay? And I want you to turn open into the word emote, and reserved into logic, and direct into tell, and indirect into ask. So you've now got a box on each axis, and you've got a tell axis and an ask axis, and an emote axis, and a logic axis. All done that? Right. Indirect is ask, as in ask questions, and as in ask leadership, my business. Emote is at the top, logic is at the bottom, tell is at the right, and ask is at the left. This now becomes your leadership, persuading, and selling style. So what we do is this. So you're going to have to watch up here a moment. You add your expressive score to your amiable score and put it in the box in the middle. Add your amiable score to your analytical score and put it in the box in the middle. You're starting to see a trend? Add your analytical score to your driver score and put the number in the middle. And then driver and expressive score and put it in the middle. And the ones on the same axis, the opposite end, will add up to 12. So if you have an 8 tell, you will have a 4 ask. If you have a 9 emote, you'll have a 3 logic. Okay? Okay? So you put the numbers in the middle. The numbers on the same axis will add up to 12. Okay? So if you have a 9 tell, you'll have a 3 ask. If you have an 8 emote, you'll have a 4 logic. This now refers to your, it's kind of a whole mixture. It's your leadership style as a personal leader. It also refers to your buying and selling style. And of course, as advocates, we're trying to sell our ideas, aren't we? So I'm going to talk through what each one of them means. Let's deal with tell versus ask. Does anybody have 6 and 6? 6 both sides. Okay, good. You guys, the two of you, can equally be guiding people, telling them what you'd like them to do, as you can be asking them questions. How do you think we should approach this? What do you think will be the best way? So 6 and 6 means you can flip and balance between the two. And in fact, you can adapt easily between taking control and relinquishing control. Okay? Good. How many have 7 or more on the tell style? So 7 or more on the right-hand side. 7 or more here. Hands bold. Okay. You guys are bossy. All right? Okay? You want to be in control. You want people to do what you want them to do when you want them to do it. Okay? Does anybody have a 10 over here? Anybody have 10? Yeah. Okay, right. That means you're very bossy. Okay. Now, this, by the way, is situational, which means there are times when that is a good thing. Okay? There are times when that is a good thing. There are also times when that really sucks. Because if you are in your tell mode with expressives and drivers, they don't like that. They don't like being told what to do or pushed in a particular direction. You can get away with it with amiables and analyticals. Drivers, you can push analyticals a little bit. In fact, they need it sometimes because they can procrastinate. And expressives, you can persuade with emotion amiables to take action. But if you do your tell stuff against these people, they will push back. Okay, you okay with that? So the high tell style is good when you're dealing with people who procrastinate or whatever, but it's a very challenging place to be when you're trying to persuade people who are also expressives and drivers. Everybody okay with that? That's a big potential challenge. So what do you think the tell style people need to adapt to do? Ask questions and listen. Ask questions and listen. Ask questions to build relationships and listen. Ask questions about facts and figures and listen. Okay? Write down these 4 words, these 4 letters, A-Q-A-L, AQAL. It's a sales technique. It's called ask questions and listen. A-Q-A-L, right? So you can persuade people by asking questions and listening. And that's how you deal with expressives and drivers. Okay, so that's the tell style versus ask style. So folks with a 7 or more over here learn to ask questions and listen. You can persuade by asking questions. Who has 7 or more over this side? The ask side. What score do you have? 7? 8? Okay, that's great because you're inclusive. You will ask questions, naturally ask questions. What do you think we should do? How do you think we should approach it? And so on. But there may be times when you need to be more decisive. This is the decisive side. This can be indecisive. Okay, so you can get over concerned with people's feelings rather than taking action to get the results that you need to get. So again, learn to adapt, because the secret to this stuff, by the way, if you haven't figured it out already, is to be able to adapt your style. This, by the way, is called situational leadership, where you adapt your style to suit the situation. If the building is on fire, which is the best style to be? Nope. Driver. Expressives will be talking about it. Hey, I was in a fire once. It was real cool. Can I tell you what I did when we were in this fire last time I was in this fire? I, me, I. Okay, that's what expressives do when they have a fire. Driver's like, right, that exit you lot, this exit you lot, don't take your bags with you, go. Right, that's what drivers are great at, that's situational, right? You need to build relationships with key new members of the team. Which style? Amiable. Build relationships. You want somebody to go and stand on stage and project a real powerful, persuasive message. Expressive. You've got a business case together to get to the ministry, to get some funding. Analytical. You see what I mean? That's situational leadership. All right, good. Let's just deal with above the line and below the line now. Does anybody have 6 and 6? Emote, rational. Okay, good. Cool. This line is about this. People are persuaded by reason, but moved by emotion. Great leaders can do both. Those of you who put your hands up, you are naturally able to provide facts and figures to persuade and build emotion to persuade with emotion. Okay, so that's a good bias, 6 and 6. Who has 7 or more below the line? Hands way up in the air. Okay, these are the rational, logical decision makers, okay? Decisions are made based on facts and figures. We sell things using facts and figures. We persuade predominantly with reason when you operate down here. By the way, this also applies to your buying style. Those people with 7 or more down here buy based on the technical capabilities of the product, practicality, the price, durability, in the case of a car, gas mileage and stuff like that, right? You predominantly use logic to make decisions, okay? Again, there's no right and wrong, it's just situational. Who has 7 or more above the line? Okay, right. Make predominantly emotional decisions, lead emotionally. Won't it be great when? Picture this, imagine this scenario. Okay, but also you buy emotionally. You make decisions, I should say we make decisions because I'm way up here. We make decisions to buy things based on how it makes us feel, what it looks like. The last thing we do is we look at the technical specification and the price. And the only reason we look at the technical specification and the price is to justify the decision we've made to other people. We don't actually care about it, okay? So we actually use technical information to justify our decisions. So we make emotional purchases, which is why expressives would like to drive Ferraris. There are 2 Ferraris that I know of in Trinidad, and I know both the owners. There are roads that you can't drive the Ferrari on because it would destroy the bottom of the vehicle. Okay, but here's a quick story to prove this kind of out. I was working with a guy doing personal coaching, And I was about to do this exercise with him. It was one-on-one stuff. He came into my office a few years ago. And he dropped his car keys in the middle of the desk as he sat down. Thank you. He's expressive. He wanted me to see the car keys, right? Because he literally dropped them on the desk and sat down. Hi, Nigel, how are you? I've gone, hi, I'll change his name quickly. Hi, David, how are you? And I looked at the key fob. It was a shiny BMW key fob. So I said to him, new car, eh? He said, yeah. I said, what is it? He said, it's a BMW 640. Now, a few years ago, I don't know if you know a 640. It is a V8 powered coupe. It's a 4-litre V8. This thing is a 140 mile an hour car. I said, amazing. I said, what color is it? It's red. You get this? Ga-ding, 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 right? It's red. And I said, okay, cool. And then I threw in the trick question. I said, that's great, David. Why did you buy it? And then followed this diatribe of garbage. He said, Nigel, let me tell you about the new 4-litre BMW engine. It is the most gas-efficient engine on the market. It will do 32 miles per gallon highway. I'm like, wow, cool. I said, the depreciation on this BMW is 12% per annum, which is below the market value. I'm like, wow, cool. He said, this has 32 airbags. If you get in an accident, it will be like crashing in a cushion factory. I'm like, wow. He said, the GPS sensitivity on this unit is 6 feet, anywhere within 6 feet. And I said to him, that's interesting, Dave. I said, but you didn't answer my question. I said, why did you buy it? And he goes, oh, the real reason. And I said, yeah. He said, it's the only one in Trinidad. There is not another car in Trinidad. So the real reason was, I wanted to be first. Okay, the only one in Trinidad. And to prove this out, I saw him about 6 months later. And I said, how's the car, Dave? And he said, I sold it. I'm like, what? I said, why'd you sell it? He said, just down the road, 2 blocks away, somebody else has got one. Literally, it's in Valsayn, actually. 2 blocks away, somebody else has got one, so I sold it. I said, okay, what have you got now? I got a Porsche Macan. I said, wow, why did you buy it? Same stuff. It's got the lightest boxer Porsche engine, the depreciation is whatever, and I'm like, okay, you do what you want to do. So, completely emotional decisions, rationalizing the reason they made the decision. So the secret with this stuff is, when you're persuading, if you are persuading somebody who is logically orientated, driver analytical, and you're persuading them with emotion, they will not buy what you're selling because they won't get it. Okay? So if you've got drivers and analyticals, you go in with logical, rational business cases. If you're persuading expressives and amiables, talk to them about how amazing it will be. Use the colourful emotional language that they will buy into, because they will get that. They won't get this. So reading the people that you're selling to and then adapting your style and your persuasive techniques is a massive, massive benefit, okay? Because other people won't be doing it. You can be the unique people selling your concept and your ideas, understanding where they sit here and then adapting your style to suit their buying style, if you like. You're persuading either with logic or with emotion. If you've got a group, you have to do both and do it really well. And what do you want?
If it's a group of people and you have all of those individuals in that room, then you have to make sure that you have information that meets each of their needs, right?
People are persuaded by reason and moved by emotion. When you're working with a mixed group, you have to do both really well. Facts and figures, and won't it be amazing? Picture this, okay? Mixture of the two. We all okay with that? Good, okay. So that's all going to go on communication and leadership style. I'm going to set up, which will only take us a minute, the video, the first video to show you, which we're going to then have a discussion about. So have a discussion on your tables. What was your biggest learning from that? And then the second piece that I'll ask you about is how can you apply it to the project that we're working on? In other words, what do we believe? What is our why? Okay? All good with that? So I'll give you a few minutes to think and reflect and then write some notes down and then we'll do the flip chart thing, okay? So what did you learn and how do we apply it to why we're here today, the whole advocacy process and our quest for the end result, okay? Which table wants to volunteer to kick off the feedback?
From watching the video, we approached it from the point of view of looking at advocacy and so we approached it like, what have we learned? And we applied it to our
advocacy,
particular,
okay.
Right? One which is, it produces longevity of mission. The whole issue of why, right? The whole issue of why, dealing with the issue of why, it produces longevity of mission. So,
right.
So we hold on to things longer. We stick to things longer,
right,
because we believe in what we do.
Right. Okay. I'm cool with that. That's good feedback in terms of. So we're looking at really the why is a mission, isn't it? And the missions are often mistaken or mixed up with a vision. They are absolutely crystally clearly different. A mission is why the company or the organization exists. Vision is what we see in the future. And I'll give you an example. We'll play a little game for a minute. I'm going to give you a mission statement, and I would like you to figure out which company it represents. You okay with the game? You ready? Steady. To make people happy. No, that's to make people fat. To make people happy. It's a mission of an organization. Disney. Who said Disney? Well done. To make people happy is Disney's mission. It's been there since Walt Disney was drawing cartoons in a garage. All of the businesses of Disney are about happy. The cruise liners, the Pixar movies that they make, the theme parks are about making people happy. If you want to work for Disney, what do you have to be? Happy. Okay? Literally. Disney do not hire people who are grumpy. Well, with one exception, that's the dwarf. Okay, so the mission of an organization is why it exists. And that's a classic example, to make people happy. That's why they exist. The vision might be to be the biggest, movie producer in the cinemas over the next 3-year period and so on. So mission is long, it lasts forever. And so when Simon talks about the why, that's the piece that is sustainable forever and ever and ever. Okay, cool. This table here, what were your thoughts on the Simon Sinek video? Mary.
Yes. For us, what stood out was that there's a need to connect with people, and emotionally, we thought
Yes.
that if we can connect with person's emotion and individualize why we are doing what we are doing, and also to get them to identify with our why,
Yes.
then that will sustain the movement of advocacy.
Yeah, that's absolutely the point. You have to connect with people emotionally. Let them feel what you feel. Let them believe what you believe. And then they will go, as Simon says, blood, sweat, and tears. And money. Okay, you will get blood, sweat, and tears from them. Okay, feedback from this table. Who's going to speak? Peggy?
Our why was all persons with disabilities have same rights. So they need to be given the same opportunities
Right.
in every sphere across the board. Social justice should be given to them as well. They should be equipped with tools. We were thinking about equipping them with the tools to influence corporate citizens to advocate for the voiceless. Because
Right.
those people who are disabilities are voiceless. But
Right.
we are the voices
So we're
for
now
them.
turning it, how do we turn what we learned from that into our belief? What is our fundamental belief? The first piece, Peggy.
to equip the tools to
No,
influence
that's what we do.
all persons with disabilities has the rights.
Right. That is a why statement, isn't it? All people with disabilities have rights. They have the same rights as we have. Okay, that's really the belief, isn't it? How we're going to do it is the how and what. So we were moving into so remember Simon's circles. This is why we exist. All persons with disabilities will, and I'm using your words, they're not my words. All persons with disabilities will have the same rights. Okay, that's our why statement, isn't it? Oh, by the way, how we'll do it is we'll form an advocacy group and we will lobby and we'll go and sit on the steps of Parliament and work with access to the whatever. We will provide them with tools and whatever is necessary to do that. So we move from the inside, always move from the inside out in terms of this is what we believe, this is how we're going to do it, and these are the specific things we're going to do. Michelle?
Okay, if I could just...
Mike? I don't know whether it's called Mike. You're not called Mike, are you?
Okay, so I think this is where with our group, a few of us were having a little bit of a difficult time connecting with that. Using the why statement as persons with disabilities have rights, that isn't necessarily a belief, that's a fact. They have rights. So what is
right.
different here? With it being...
Compared to what is our belief? Have equal rights with persons who don't have disabilities is now a belief. It's like Martin Luther King.
But it's not a belief, it's a right. It's a fact.
Okay, but we believe it, but they don't.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to...
I wonder though if it's taking it away when I'm trying to say, okay, this is my belief, which can be questioned, as opposed to something that is a fact that you cannot question.
Yeah.
This is like, okay, I believe 1 + 1 is 2. It's a fact.
It comes like this. They're persons with a disability, right? However, they were born on a different planet, not from man and baby. You understand what I'm saying? It's putting it like that because it's a fact that they do have a right.
Yes.
And they were born here, so they do have that right to access every single thing like everybody else.
And it comes down to this, it's kind of like we need to finish this sentence. We believe that people or persons with disabilities, and that piece is due to, should get the same facilities, access, whatever that people without disabilities do. We believe that should happen. And that's what we sell. Now, I'm not going to put those words into your mouths because you have to come up with those, because you're the people who are going to be standing there going, listen, as a parent advocacy group, we believe this. And the people who believe what you believe will be the people who will come on your side. Yeah? If it is already factually correct, then it's like, tick, we've done that. But it's not factually correct. At the moment, people in this country and many other countries do not have access to facilities, to buildings, to education, to jobs, they don't have access to that. Physical or intellectual access.
However, that doesn't take away the fact that they are entitled to it.
I know, but they don't have it. So we believe that it should be practically applicable, for example. Now, I'm not going to finish that sentence for you. I think that's something that I would like you to kind of think about. Say, what does that sentence mean? What does that sentence look like? It starts with, we believe. It probably has people with disabilities, and then there's the kind of piece that is not true today, but we believe it should become true, because then we work towards that. And when we're selling our kind of pitch as an advocacy group to a minister or to a group in the community or whatever, that's what we sell. Before we start, let's just tell you what we believe. And the people who believe what we believe will be the people who will jump on our side. Okay? Does that make sense? I don't want to get too deep into this because the belief thing is pretty straightforward. It does not have to be true. It just has to be accepted by others. That doesn't mean we've won. When everybody in this country believes what we believe does not mean that that's the end of it. That means that we now have 1.2 million people working to make it come true. So the belief is our belief system. So Disney's kind of to make people happy, We all believe in that, don't we? We agree with that? That's fantastic. Now, everybody then has to work to make it come true. The same with what our belief system is. When we say we believe this, then as we get people to engage in it, people will work hard to make it come true across the entire country. So we have to get specific and document that. What is our belief? What is our why? Why do we exist? The how is by lobbying, by educating, by all the strategic stuff that we do to make it happen, okay? You all okay with that? I don't want us to have we don't have, we didn't put time in this to actually construct this piece this afternoon, okay? But I want us just to understand what we believe is the start point of the entire process. And I think we're all agreeing that, are we agreeing that what we believe? We believe that people with disabilities should have equal access to everything, education, healthcare, jobs and whatever, and that is patently not true. And I can tell you it's not true. It's miles from being true in this country. Miles from being true. In fact, it's not even true in my home country of England. It's still a mess up there. So, but it's less true here. But if that is our fundamental belief, then the more people we get to believe it, because there are a lot of people who don't. They don't believe that because there are real or imagined barriers being put up. Okay? It wasn't that long ago that Shamla Mirage couldn't get into a particular course at UWE because they couldn't get her access to the classrooms. That was not 20 years ago. That was 7 years ago that was happening. And to the best of my knowledge, it's no better today than it was then. And if she hadn't been the gutsy fighter that she was, she would have been palmed off and not been able to do a master's degree. Okay? So it shouldn't have to be a fight for people to get their access rights, and it's part of our job is to be fighting on their behalf. And the video that you're going to see soon is going to help you get some clarity behind what has happened historically. The video that Stephen showed me, that you're going to see. So this is the start of the process, okay? The start of the process. I would like you to, I won't be facilitating from now on, but I would suggest to Jackie and to Steve that you put some more thought into this before you leave tomorrow afternoon, to the whole belief thing. If necessary, watch that video again. I say I watched it 25, 30, maybe more times, and I learn from it every time I see it. Every single time I see it, I see some different messages. The big thing is people will work for blood, sweat and tears when they believe what you believe. If you hire people, you try to get people online because you talk to them about what you do. We're a parent advocacy group and we blah, blah, blah. All they hear is blah, 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 blah. Because you're talking facts to them. You have to appeal to what's the centerpiece of the brain? The limbic brain. You have to meet that piece emotionally. So go, you know, that feels like the right thing to do. My gut tells me that you're doing the right things. Therefore, I'm going to join you. So you move from being a dozen or 20 people to being 100. Then you go from 100 to being 500. And from 500 to 1,000 and so on until it is overwhelming for those differences and those changes to be made. Okay? Other than wrapping up at the close of business this afternoon, that is my facilitation over with for now. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. Just a quick point of note for you. I thought I ought to write my scores up here because somebody at lunchtime said, so where do you stand on this? So here it is. 9, 0, 1, 2.
This is you?
Me. I am 9 expressive. Ta-da!